Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shattered Convictions. It's good to see everyone here today. We're going to be talking about something that's very, very important, our rights. A lot of people think that rights are these things that you can just call upon, like a logical fallacy in an argument. But unfortunately, rights are something that you have to demand into existence. You must always fight for them because there are forces out there who are trying to take them away strategically, like a chess match. They're never going to grab their queen and throw it at your king and win the game. They're not going to slam down and say, you can't say this, 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 and this, or you're going to jail. That's not how it works here in America. How it works is strategic. It's slow, and it's incremental.
World War III has never been closer than it is right now.
The Pentagon today announced the U.S. is sending military assets closer to Israel, including one of the Navy's most...
You're making all my dreams come true.
President Xi Jinping has said that China is a home of and the scope of his plan. And he wants people in China to...
So, a very viral clip went out recently, I think it was a couple days ago, where a police officer went to someone's home and was asking her questions about a Facebook post. Now, we're going to show the clip here to give full context, obviously, so people can watch at home and come to their own conclusions. But when you look at the tweet itself, it's very tame. I don't know, because you saw the video too. What do you think about the tweet? What do you think about the video?
Let's watch the clip first, and then we can talk about it.
Is that your account?
I refuse to answer questions without my lawyer present. So I really don't know how to answer that question either
well,
way.
like I said, you're not going to jail.
This is freedom of speech. This is America, right?
And
Veteran.
And I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
We're just trying to see if it's you, because if we're not talking to the right person, we want to go see who the right person
Okay,
is.
how can I help you?
So pretty much it's just a statement that was made as far as,
verbatim, it says the guy who consistently calls for the death of all Palestinians tried to shut down a theater for showing a movie that hurt his feelings and refuses to stand up for the LGBTQ community in any way. Even leaves the room when they vote and on related matters. Wants you to know that you are all welcome. Clown face, clown face, clown face. 3 days ago.
You don't know if it was you?
I'm not going to answer whether that's me or not.
Okay.
The concerning part, and not concerning for the person who's posting it, what we're just trying to prevent is somebody else getting agitated or agreeing with the statement. We're not saying it's true or not.
Understood.
That guy who consistently calls for the death of all Palestinians, that can probably incite somebody to do something radical. That's all we're here to talk about. And we wanted to get your side. If it was you that posted that, I would think to refrain from posting things like that, because that can get something
I
incited.
appreciate your concern. I appreciate you coming out here.
Okay?
That's it?
That is it.
Okay.
I'm going to maintain my amendment rights to not answer the question about whether or not that's me. I hope that's
Thank you for your time.
understandable
All
to
right,
you.
we appreciate it.
Thank you
Yeah,
as
have a
well.
good day, okay?
You as well. Thank you. Take care.
Crazy.
The first thing I want to say is that is how you deal with police officers coming to your door. So that's
To be
like
fair, she shouldn't even have opened the door.
That's a fair point too. But honestly, cops are at your door. You want to speak to them. They want to speak to you. It's a consensual conversation.
Fair.
Sometimes it'll be in your
You
benefit.
saw how they started walking into her apartment.
Exactly. That's another thing too. Make sure that, you make sure the cop doesn't sneak their way into the apartment, put the foot at the door. But that was the classic way to deal with police officers. Now, we get into more specifics about the video itself. What is the crime that's happening here? What is the investigation that needs to be done?
I would assume, to play devil's advocate, I guess, I would assume the crime would be hate speech, I guess, technically.
But that doesn't even, because she didn't say anything hateful.
Right, but you saw the reaching that the cop was doing, it could be construed to call somebody to action to you know what I mean? I feel like they're reaching for hate speech as the main motive, but what it really is, honestly, I feel like it's a mayor flexing his power because he's using the cops as his own personal military force.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's textbook intimidation.
Right. Go to somebody who apparently, I think she was running for either in some kind of office in Miami, but apparently you can't say bad things about the mayor of Miami. It's North Korea down there.
Yeah, well, Miami is kind of a police state. Florida in general is kind of a police state. But you kind of put something well there, right?
where it comes into the point of how do people actually go ahead and take your rights away? Like I said in the intro, it's like a chess match. They don't just grab their strongest piece and throw it at you and just put you in jail because you alluded to something. They use those definitions, like you said, hate speech, right? They use these things that have a very vague definition, of subjective definition, and they start putting legal frameworks in order to actually penalize certain ideals, right? So you could see this very clearly with something like, if you look at like the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, something that a lot of people criticize, but is signed to law, I think in like 32 different states, where they have a specific codified definition of anti-Semitism that is written by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, I think is the what it's called. And they'll have certain things like, of course, like believing that something that a Jewish person does is a monolith to all Jewish people. That's like classic bigotry, right? One person did you wrong, now everyone of that race is wrong. That's classical, right? And most people would agree with that's bad. And most people are against that. We're kind of trained to be against that since young age. I mean, I'm young, I'm 21. I've been in the American education system for, as long as I've been alive essentially. Right. And that's something that's been hit home. Being racist, being bigoted is something that's not cool, and most people don't mess with that. But it's important to make sure that it's not being misconstrued in a way where now if you disagree with me politically, I can misconstrue that and make it into a crime. Right. And I think a lot of people know this, like from across the aisle. And I'm someone, again, I'm more right-leaning. I grew up on the Ben Shapiro's. I grew up on the Jordan Petersons. I grew up on all these types of content where they were very against this type of stuff. And they would make this argument very clearly that you can't go around defining, you can define hate in a way, but very specific, a specific way as like to strategically like criminalize certain things like political ideas, and very important not to misconstrue like speech with violence. And that's kind of what the cop did there, even subconsciously, where he goes, oh, well, someone can read this and then go and become violent, where it's like, no, dude, we have a First Amendment. That person has their own agency. Right. So if I say something that's critical, let's say of Donald Trump, and someone goes out and wants to attack Donald Trump because I said something, that has nothing to do with me.
Right.
That has to do with the
if
person.
You were to be like, hey, let's all like gather 500 people and lynch this man, that's different.
Exactly.
Then
it's specific.
Yeah, you can have a cop come to your door because you're insinuating a riot or you're insinuating bodily harm. But just full on criticizing a political leader should not have like police show up at your door asking you why you posted this. Like, it's not England, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Like, we're supposed to have freedom here, Like,
and I think any like American in general should be against this type of behavior. I mean, regardless of the political aisle you're on, you should see this and say this is not cool for a police officer to come in, textbook intimidation. Hey, like for example, when a cop pulls you over and then they start talking about like, hey, well, that thing dangling from your windshield, I could charge you for this crime and I could do this. Tyranny. And like, that's tyranny. Like you're just trying to fish for something to get me in trouble for, to give me a ticket.
I always tell people cops aren't your friends.
Exactly. And that's why she did a perfect job of being like, hey, I'm going to use my first.
She did more than I would. She opened the door.
She conducted herself far better than I would, because I would have used my First Amendment right.
Right, exactly.
I would have been like, I would have been like,
I just would have been like, do you have a warrant? No, cool. Close my door.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that simple. Like that's our right. You have especially in your own private home.
And when you look at too, what's so egregious about it too, it's not even something that could really be misconstrued as violence, right? Because there are certain times where it's like, you can say something and maybe someone can take it out of context and make it seem like you're trying to incite violence. Where this specific, it's a critique. Like she's calling out a specific thing that the mayor did, right? Which we have a clip to bring that up, which was honestly, we could just play the second clip here that was explaining the what was happening with the actual mayor and what she was criticizing him for.
Palestinian territories began. I realize that no other land elicits a lot of strong feelings. One person might find insensitive, another person might find thoughtful.
After the mayor of Miami Beach threatened to evict O Cinema from Old City Hall, a city-owned building, for screening No Other Land.
And the Oscar goes to No Other Land.
An Academy Award-winning documentary produced by a Palestine-Israeli collective about Palestinian displacement in the West Bank, which the mayor found offensive.
I was raised in a Jewish tradition that deeply values freedom of expression.
Several arts and culture community leaders.
We will not be intimidated.
And ACLU of Florida's legal director.
If the city of Miami Beach adopts this resolution, they will be breaking the law.
closed ranks around the independent nonprofit Art House Cinema Tuesday morning ahead of Wednesday's city resolution on the table, pulling the lease.
I think the First Amendment is a black or white issue.
Its co-founder and board chair explaining.
I'm not here today to defend No Other Land,
but rather their First Amendment right to screen it, said O Cinema's CEO.
I had a conversation with my staff, with my board, and we all agreed that it was really important to show this critical film. It's an award-winning film. It's on mission.
So what do you think?
Yeah, and
is
I
that
think
anti-Semitic if they play the movie?
Absolutely not. And honestly, I think it's racist to even not want to play the movie, because the movie is specifically talking about the atrocities happening in the West Bank, right? And this mayor, you know, like, I didn't look into his specific quotes on the West Bank, but I would assume he wouldn't even call it that. He'd probably call it Judea Samaria,
right?
Because there is a specific set of people who believe that Israel has the right to those lands, want to kick out all the Palestinians, and if you watch that movie, that's what it's talking about,
right.
And that's textbook evil. That's textbook evil. Driving
literally
people off
genocide,
their land
right.
in order to
ethnic cleansing, right?
Exactly. It's literally textbook ethnic cleansing. Now, whatever you think about that situation, I don't really care, because we're in America, and if you want to play a movie in a movie theater, you shouldn't have to worry about the government coming in and trying to take away any kind of licenses for you not to be able to operate. And that's like the definition of anti-freedom of speech. That's even by culture, right? Kind of this idea of what we believe is freedom of speech. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you know, if we're in a private place, you know, maybe I don't want you to be here. But in America, we have a kind of culture of like, hey, let the guy talk, you know?
Right.
And that's something that's being eroded now.
For sure.
And while people can use, like, let's say their private power to erode it, now we're starting to see the public power trying to erode that.
It's been happening for a while too, like First Amendment audits, you know what I mean? Like every time I see those videos, I see so many comments being like, well, you should just comply. Like they're giving the officers a hard time. And it's like, bro, no, they're flexing their rights. You know what I mean? Because like if we all just let them take our rights away and, you know what I mean, and stop an ID and this and that, we're going to lose our rights. You know what I mean? You got to use them or lose them,
exactly.
as people love to say, you know?
Exactly. That's exactly how it is with rights. Use them or lose them. And like you said with the First Amendment auditors, it's like, yeah, it's a little strange if someone walks into a public building with a camera.
Right.
And every interaction, they are recording the people working there. But at the end of the day, we're in a public office. Right. You're a public official. And I can record you all you want. And if you look in the ceiling, there's probably someone recording me.
Exactly.
So you can record me, but I can't record you.
Right, exactly.
And again, most people would be like, bro, just put the camera down. But it's not about that.
Right. It's about like that. Legally, you don't have to.
Exactly.
You're not breaking any laws.
Exactly.
You might be a little bit inconvenienced, but then it's also like, why don't you want to get filmed as a government official? You're in an official capacity. You know what I mean? It's not like you're like going up to somebody's window, you know what I mean, and like peeping inside. Like, you know, like freedom of speech is also like, our freedom of privacy does not include public. You know what I mean? Anything our eyes can see, we can film in public. You know, obviously not private, but yeah, man, like we gotta use our rights, you know, and like I applaud a lot of these First Amendment auditors. Like I'm sure a lot of them like just push buttons to get the views, you know, but at the end of the day, they're pushing buttons to see whether a cop will be a tyrant or not.
Exactly.
You know, like.
And I remember I was having a conversation with a police officer, and he was telling me, hey, look, you catch more flies with sugar than vinegar. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But at the end of the day, when I'm dealing with a police officer, you're the police officer. I'm the civilian.
Right.
So you're the one who has to be, you know,
Professional,
exactly.
Right.
You're the one who has to be professional.
You're working.
Exactly. And I'm just a civilian here. So when someone is, if we go back to the example with the mayor trying to pull licenses for someone showing a movie that maybe you disagree with politically.
That won Oscars.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, in order for you to think, you must risk being offensive. That's something that Jordan Peterson said, right? Now he's kind of cringe now, but back in the day when he was super cool and based, he said that now, and that really rung home, because in order for me to speak, I must risk offending someone else. And that's the kind of the beauty of freedom of speech, where like that is why it's there. It's not to say like good morning, hello, the weather is nice today. It's specifically there for offensive.
Right.
It's there for, you know, political speech. Like that's what it's for. So we have to make sure that we know that.
Right.
And obviously there's a difference between like public when you're public and when you're in private, and social media platforms are kind of the new public square. I would say.
Kinda, yeah.
So even though it's kind of more like irky there because it's like, okay, like they're a private company, but this is so integral for our society to function. This is so integral for
Social
people
media?
to speak. Yeah. Or just the internet in general, that I think removing someone's right to speak also violates their rights.
Right, censorship.
Exactly. So, and again, it's maybe not by law, but by the culture of freedom of speech. We should be upholding that. And,
but even by law, I would say, like, that's still infringing on freedom of speech. You know, like like we were saying before, you're allowed to say whatever you want as long as you're not inciting a riot or harm on somebody. You know, like you can say whatever you want.
But if there's like a private platform, like let's say like Facebook, for example.
Okay.
Like Facebook can censor you for whatever reason they
Well,
want.
yeah, because Mark Zuckerberg it's private.
Exactly.
He could choose what he already did that. He removed like the fact checker on Facebook.
But like as a society, we should be very aggressive. With not like actually aggressive, you know, more like
just
politically,
like progressive.
Exactly, like on top of it, when even social media platforms, even though they have the right to censor, we should shame them into not censoring.
Right, exactly.
Because like what we have here in America is very important, and the culture of freedom of speech is very important.
Yeah, agreed. And like that's probably our most recent rights that are deteriorating. Like we've had other ones deteriorate over time already. Going back to the 2010s, we have clips about this too, but surveillance, you know what I mean? And constantly being like eyes on us no matter where we go, whether it's our phones or like you were saying outside, you step outside, there's cameras everywhere, you know? So like it's crazy. Like I feel like most Americans didn't even realize we already lost the right to privacy.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like it's gone already.
And that kind of comes to the same incremental changes, right? Where if you were to tell most people, hey, if like let's go in the 50s and the government, I don't even know if they had like surveillance cameras back then, but
no,
if the government,
they had like FBI agents go after you.
But like if let's say like we were like, okay, we're gonna put a camera whenever you know they were able to mass produce that kind of they were gonna put all these cameras in your house and we're gonna record you at all times. People would be like, what the hell are you talking about? Why are you doing this?
Well,
I don't want a camera in my house.
But they did that in the 60s.
But now with the phone, everyone has a
people just
camera,
normalized
recorder.
it.
Exactly.
Right.
It's normalized in our culture.
Right. Like, because, like, to go off your example, like, back in the 60s, they would do that to suspected commies. You know what I mean? During the Cold War. And they would try to keep it secret because people would lose their minds if they found out, like, the government is keeping tabs on you and, like, phone tapping your phone and, like, listening to your conversations, even though they were doing it. And plenty of people got disappeared in the 60s, but it's like people don't even question it now. You know what I mean? We have people like Larry Ellison straight up tell us that they're always watching and always listening, and people just gloss it over. You know what I mean? We even have a clip for it. We should watch that clip.
Their best behavior, because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. We're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was talking about like body cams, like having body cams connected with AI. And that's the whole thing too. AI is a whole other beast.
Right, agreed.
Where I remember having this conversation on the lunchroom table, like talking about the pyramids being built by aliens, whatever. When we get to a point where we're actually talking about real stuff, and we go, hey, look, I don't like the fact that our privacy is being eroded. Cool. Oh, they have cameras everywhere. They can listen to everything we're saying. Cool. And then someone always comes up and they go, who's going to sit there sifting through all your information, watching all the footage, listening to all the audios, looking at every single text message you send? Who's going to sit there? What FBI agent is assigned to you specifically?
Even before AI, interns.
But forget the interns. You can have 1 billion interns and they still won't be as good as AI.
Oh, for sure.
Because
no way.
AI can literally have a personal CIA agent just like looking at everything you do. And another thing that adds to it is the way that the government's able to circumnavigate your rights. Like, for example, if we look at something like Palantir, or Palantir is this AI company that's able to sift through mass amounts of data and basically compile it and make it easily searchable, right? They're looking at things like social media. They're looking at
everything. Google searches,
all that type of information. Now, maybe
incognito mode.
Maybe the CIA can't go in or the FBI can't go in and look at that information just right away. But if they have a private company collecting all the information, they can just go to the private company and the private company just give it to them.
Like, hey, Peter Thiel, like we need information on this person. Like, here's their IP address, and then guess what? Your whole family's IP address just pops up on their screen. And they have all the information they need, and they just sift through it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's what I mean by this incremental changes, where it's like we're building our own cage. And it's like when you start off, you're free. But when you're done, when you finally put that last bolt in the cage, there's no escape.
Right.
And that's literally what we're doing here. We're like creating the beast. We're creating the cage that we're gonna be stuck in. And we're even defining ourselves based off of our like slavery.
Right.
You know, like it gets to a point where it's like, what is the purpose of our experiment? What's the purpose of us being America? Why is freedom important? And it comes from like individualism. And I think America is a very individualist country.
Very much so.
We could talk about like whether or not that's good or bad for us. I would say it's ultimately a good thing that we're pretty individualistic and we care about our rights. That's why we have the Second Amendment here. We're the only country with the Second Amendment. We're the only country with the real First Amendment. You know, there's a lot of other countries where I think like in England, they have over like 12, and I could be wrong about this. You can fact check this, but they have like 12,000 arrests from people with Facebook posts. Now, we're in America, so this lady fortunately just got a police officer to a door and was trying to intimidate her and doing everything legal because he didn't really do anything. He just kind of went there and said, oh, well, we could, you know.
Right.
Who are you, this person? And that's another thing that cops do where they'll like ask you a question.
Just
that's
leading questions.
It's a leading question. Are you this person? I just want to make sure that I'm speaking to the right person.
Right.
It's like, no, bro, get off my porch.
Right.
Like,
everybody
I don't
remember, you can stay silent.
Well, she did do that.
Yeah.
Props to her. So we can do a little round of applause for her.
That's somebody who knows their rights and knows how to flex them and use them when needed, because like cops bank on people getting like flustered and like losing their composure. And then like you might say something you shouldn't have, or like you might unwillingly like set yourself up as like guilty. You know what I mean? Even if you're not, but it's like the way you say something in the moment. You know what I mean? We've got to be very mindful of that, and got to keep your head on a swivel. You know what I mean? Like, especially with our rights, you know?
100%.
Yeah. Palantir, man.
Yeah, Palantir. I mean, honestly, we can. The thing about Palantir, it's like, obviously, Peter Thiel.
The Antichrist.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing with Peter Thiel. I mean, honestly, we could just play. Can we play clip 4?
Yeah, we could play clip 4.
Play clip 4.
Let's listen to Peter Thiel be schizo.
Speculative thesis is that if the Antichrist were to come to power, it would be by talking about Armageddon all the time.
To take over the world. People are way too scared for that. In our world, it's far more likely to be Greta Thunberg.
I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building.
Douthat was referring to Palantir.
You know, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
Look, there are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
I mean, to be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
What do you think you would have said?
I think he would have went, cannot compute.
Yeah.
But I think with Peter Thiel specifically, I think that the imagery of the Antichrist is such a specific thing, right? Where the Antichrist is coming here as this dictator-like figure, very charismatic, who is able to use, well, in the Bible it talks about like a mark that's either on your arm or on your forehead that you cannot buy nor sell without it. Now, with Palantir specifically, and I think the interviewer there talked about it very clearly, even if you are not the one to be the Antichrist or be the one who takes
it up,
but you're the one setting it up.
Right.
And again, with AI is this like destabilizer. It's literally going to destabilize our entire world, right? Because we're kind of in this AI revolution or this AI Cold War with China, where we need to have strong technologies, and that comes with literal military weaponry and also to intelligence gathering. And when you think about the most absurd like story about a technocratic evil government where they come in, they were looking at everything and they're able to find, like in 1984.
Right.
In 1984, the TVs would listen to you, right? Like everything had a microphone. Everything was, the Big Brother was always watching. And that's exactly how it is now. And it's like,
you think your smart TV's not listening or recording what you're doing? You know what I mean? Was it you who mentioned that? Was it Amazon that's making a new TV with like a constant camera?
It's not Amazon, but there was this TV that was coming out where essentially it has a camera on it, and it'll basically look at everything that's happening in your house or everything that it can see, and it'll target you with specific ads based off of what you would normally buy. But the thing about this TV is that it's free, so right through the door, anyone who wants TV, here you go. It plays ads that are specifically curtailed to you, and it watches to make sure you're watching the ad.
That's crazy.
Right? Now, whatever, the TV's free. It makes sense that this is just like a business gambit for them to make
Right.
money, because they got to make money. They got to make the ads. They got to make money. But it comes to a point where it's like, is there any stopping this wave of technology that'll basically suffocate us? And again, we're building the cage that we're going to be trapped in.
No, I don't think so. I think it's too late already. If Elon Musk himself, and I don't even like Elon Musk, but if he was saying 10 years ago that it's too late already with AI and like how quickly things are advancing, no, I think that ship has sailed already. Now we just have to do what we can to like I was gonna ask you a question: is a free TV worth your rights?
Oh, it's free.
If
it's free,
they'll probably give you like a 24-inch.
Yeah,
it's
true.
not even a nice TV. You know what I mean? Like, is it worth like losing your right to privacy in your own home?
The problem is that individually, people don't care.
Right.
Because it doesn't affect people individually. But like I said, the chessboard that's being played on our lives is multi-generational, So
Agreed.
maybe the first 5 moves are during your lifetime, or the first 5 moves are during your parents' lifetime, or even farther and farther beyond that.
Right.
But we get to a point where things are normalized, and now, like I said before, the cage is being built.
Right.
And I think with AI is the lock. AI is the lock that will shut the cage out and literally make it impossible for people to be free again. And after our generation, during my kids' generation, it'll be so normal. It'll be so, it'll be like, oh, I mean, you don't want the government to look, you have something to hide.
Right. I mean, they already played that.
Government to exactly. But now people hear that and they go, shut up. Like I've heard this spiel before.
Right.
But it can get to a point where it's integrated in our culture where people just don't care anymore. It's like, that's already happened with telephones. Everyone knows the phone is listening to everything you're saying.
Right.
Now people just don't care because they have nothing to hide and they have nothing to, to be like,
Right. But then going back to like the whole like hate speech thing, like they can make something, you know what I mean? They can change definitions around so that like now some tweet you tweeted like 12 years ago is like anti whatever, you know what I mean? You get like canceled or you lose your job or whatever. And obviously this is like worst case scenario, like doom talk, you know what I mean? But it is a very probable road we might already be walking down, and it's like, it's good to be aware about it and move accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Like you were saying, like nothing happens in a vacuum. Like this whole thing with your phones, like this all started back in like the 2000s with George Bush and like the Patriot Act, and then like Snowden and Obama, and like we have clips about that too. We'll play in a few, but like you said, things don't just happen. Like even ICE now infringing on people's rights by stopping and IDing. That was happening in the 40s during World War II with Japanese American citizens. You know what I mean? Where like if you looked a little Asian, guess what? Like you were gonna get stopped, ID'd. If you happen to be Japanese, you're gonna go to the concentration camp. Like that happened on American soil. You know what I mean? Like our rights have been slowly being dismantled for almost like a century now. And
that's another thing too, where there was a huge problem with people recording ICE agents,
right,
even though you're perfectly allowed to record in public.
Right.
And I mean, even some states have like a right to monitor act. I know like New York has that, where anybody in the I don't know if it's specifically police officers in the
it's supposed to be a public official.
But yeah, any kind of public official, if they're in the course of their duty, you're allowed to record them.
Right.
And they can't stop you from recording them.
Right.
But the problem is, it's like your rights are not, again, like I said, it's like a logical fallacy. It's like, oh, I won the argument. It's a logical fallacy. You have to stop right now. It doesn't work that way, because when a cop is violating your rights,
he doesn't
and
care.
You go, well, actually, in the Constitution, it's like shackle,
Yeah,
get in
literally.
the back of the car, we're breaking you back, we're fingerprinting you, you're going
Literally.
to jail. And then maybe a couple months later, after you spend a bunch of money on a lawyer, I apologize. Or not even.
Right, not even apologize.
You just kind of let you out.
Vacation.
Exactly. And it's like, that's why it's very important to, like, you had to be the case law at the end of the day. Like, if a cop is trying to get you to stop recording them, I feel like it's your moral duty
record more,
record harder,
right?
Monitor the situation
Then
harder.
use the same logic on them. If you have nothing to hide, you could be recorded. You know, unless you were planning on doing something illegal or breaking somebody's rights, or you know what I mean. Like I use that same logic for like ICE agents who like are getting mad that people are recording, and it's like, bro, why are you hiding your faces? If you were doing like everything by the law for the law, you wouldn't have to hide your faces. You know what I mean? And be worried about being like publicly exposed, I guess. You know,
Yeah,
like
I think what the Trump administration is doing is right now is like so terrible, especially too because they care right about immigration. They care about the view of immigration, and they had a public mandate to do deportation. And most people, I don't think, are morally against deportation, even if it's not someone who's a criminal, even if it's just someone who came here illegally. I don't think a lot of Americans are gonna, freak out in the point that they are now with ICE if Donald Trump was deporting them in a humane manner. But instead, number one, their deportations are lower than they probably should be when he's trying to deport 10 million illegal immigrants that came during Biden.
Right.
So his strategy is to make
especially when they have a quota.
His strategy is to make as much ruckus, right? To be as violent and aggressive as possible for people to deport themselves. Now, you had a public mandate to do deportations, and now you're making it so unappealing where people are no longer going to support that. So you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Right.
And you're violating Americans' rights.
Right.
We just had an American citizen shot in the head when
literally.
she was driving her
like,
car.
Like I don't care if you're like left or right. Like how can you like I've seen so many like some kid that I know named Anthony was like defending it and calling her like a criminal. It's like, bro, even criminals aren't supposed to get executed point blank in the street. You know what I mean? We have due process for a reason.
Exactly. And the problem is this: it's like you're gonna have a legalistic argument that he fell with the information he had that he needed to use. Like he's able to use lethal force based off of like the laws or whatever.
NPC rhetoric.
Exactly. I think it's NPC rhetoric as well. I mean, you could look at the clip that he did get like touched by the car. I don't even want to say hit because she was going
like 2 miles
per hour. Exactly.
Right,
so
like
any reasonable person in that situation, I don't think would execute the woman. If you want to say legally you have the right to do that because the law says this, fine, whatever. I don't care. The bigger conversation here is why are these people going on the streets blocking ICE cars in the first place? They're doing that because
they're not
ICE's conduct is
right, exactly.
is very violent, and people are going to go against that.
Right.
It's like we have Republicans out here who go on the street corner and they have their AR-15 flexing their Second Amendment right, based, by the way. I love that.
Right.
I love to see that.
But then they complain when people of color in Minnesota are doing the same.
Yeah, but when federal agents are coming, like literally the Fed are coming into your
Right.
state and violating your rights as an American citizen, and you're doing the same thing.
Right, but
For
now,
me, I think it's
like
based too.
I've seen pictures like of like black and brown people, like the new Black Panthers who are walking around strapped, and people are already calling them like criminals and it's like, dude, like the Second Amendment's for everybody. It's not just for you and then everybody else just gets shot by the Gestapo. You know what I mean? Like the Second Amendment is there to protect us from tyranny of the government. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so funny that like the "don't tread on me" people became "tread on me, daddy" real quick.
Yeah.
You know, like
because Orange Man's treading. But
right.
But I don't. I want
regardless.
to make sure that I want to be clear. I don't support the protests that are happening with ICE because a lot of them are very disruptive, very violent. And
Protests are supposed to be disruptive.
It depends how they do it. I mean, because again, they are federal agents conducting a mandate from the president. So
Right, to
they have
disappear people off the street.
It depends. Again, it depends how they're doing it, and I think that a lot of leftists would probably still be against or probably still do the same tactics, even if they weren't doing it the way that they're doing.
They
But
were.
we don't live in that.
But they were, because even people love to bring up like, oh, Obama deported this many people and Biden deported this many people, and it's like, well, they're not doing it in the same manner, like you were saying, of just having masked men like round up people in neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Like they went through due process. But even besides that, plenty of leftists, myself included, were like complaining about Obama and Biden deporting so many people unjustly or like skipping over like certain processes. You know what I mean? Not to the degree that's happening now with Trump, because Trump just took it to like a whole nother level, you know? But,
yeah, but that's where I would like disagree more because again, like, well, number one with Obama specifically, it was like a reclassification thing where like he changed turnaways from like people coming into the country and then just turning them
Right.
away as a deportation.
Right.
Where Donald Trump is doing interior enforcement,
Right.
which no president really has done before, interior enforcement. So
True.
I think it's a little different. We're going to obviously see people upset that they're getting deported and, you know, people are going to fight, whatever. My whole point is that it's kind of a double-edged flame, right? Where we have the citizens who are violently going against, doing protests, blocking roads, blocking ICE vehicles, tearing weapon safes out of like ICE vehicles. Like I saw a clip where they put like a rope on like a weapons box in an ICE vehicle and ripped it out with a truck.
Based.
Right? No, I don't think that's based, but
That's based.
It was pretty crazy. My whole point is like we have that going on, and then we also have ICE, which are literally like
agitators.
They're agitators to American people and also immigrants that are in the country, illegal immigrants that are in the country.
Right.
It's both ends are going insane right now, which is causing a lot of the tension and a lot of the violence. Now, I think that conversation goes very close to what we were talking about before, which is you're the federal agent. You're the one who has to be professional.
Right.
You're the one who has to calm the
You
situation
can't lose your
down,
composure.
and you can't lose your composure.
You're supposed to be trained for that.
But when that guy shot that woman in the head, what did he say?
So I don't even remember. I heard so much stuff.
Hey, I'm pretty sure he called her an F&B.
Oh yeah, he did in the video.
So,
yeah,
and it's like
I thought you were talking
you're
more
obviously
like
emotional.
like a
you're
comment
obviously
after.
unstable, and you're sitting here in this position of power with a weapon, and you just executed an American citizen as a federal agent. Yeah, bro, like that. We're not dealing with that. But on the other hand, it's
But
like
it's
the
just-
reason they're agitated like that is because the left is super agitated because of deportation, and the left is agitated because what ICE is doing. So it's kind of like.
Because I feel like the left gets agitated because of the conduct that it's being done. You know what I mean?
But I wouldn't even say it because I think the left is pretty violent when they do protests. I mean, like they're very open to having violent protests. I mean, if you look at I think the only example I really get from right being violent is like January 6th.
Which is arguably way more violent.
Nah.
Bro, they battered police officers. When's the last time a leftist
Black Lives Matter? They were literally incinerating city blocks.
Right, but again, because of the conduct that was being because I've been to a few of those protests, and granted, the one here in Newark, shout out to Newark, was overall safe because the police here are from our neighborhood and they understand, you know what I mean? But for a lot of these places, you would see videos left and right of it being peaceful until the police showed up, and then they agitate. You know, that's the playbook 101 of the regime. You know what I mean? Even before Trump, that's always how it is. You know, we were literally founded through protest and revolt. That's literally how our country was born. If anything, it's a divine American right to protest.
Yeah, well, protesting and
rioting
are different.
But you can't protest in a corner. This is why I used to call the No King's Day a bunch of liberal bullshit. You know what I mean? Because you can't revolt or protest in a box specified to you by the empire. You know what I mean? Because that doesn't change anything.
Well,
you know,
I would say there's a level to that. I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you there.
You know,
you have to disrupt, but you can't do it there's certain decorum that you have to follow. For example, when we look at the recent situation that happened in that church, right? Where I think one of the ICE,
the pastor was an ICE agent.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember if that was
or he worked at the ICE office.
Yeah, he worked at ICE office.
It was something like that.
And people came in and they disrupted, right? Now, you're at a church service, right? And we do have the FACE Act. I think it was passed 1996 or something like that, where you can't disrupt or intimidate people when they're in the act of worshiping or some religious process. And now there's multiple levels to this situation that happened, right? The first level is obviously the people who were there disrupting and refusing to leave in a private area. They should be, arrested and prosecuted. Maybe I don't think we should put them in jail for a long time, but fine them or whatever.
Shouldn't be as long as Jan 6.
No, I don't think it should be. Well, I think January 6th was another one where it was an abuse of power because a lot of people there weren't specific agitators. Or some people who were just caught up in the
moment, sure, but there was plenty of agitators
I
too.
don't want to deny that. But there's another level to it as well where someone like Don Lemon is there as a journalist recording what's going on. He was tipped off by the protesters beforehand. He interviewed a couple of the protesters and the people in the church. And now he's going to try to get the administration is trying to charge him with the FACE Act, where it's no, he's a journalist.
Right.
He's a journalist. He wasn't jumping up and screaming.
Right.
Trying to disrupt. He was there to record. And that's where we get to a point where it's
freedom of press is the next one going, if not already gone.
100%.
You know, 100%. And it's because of things like that. Rhetoric like that is how you lose your rights. We can protest, but you got to do it this way, or you got to do it you got to conform, or you got to do it placated. That's how you lose your right to protest. You know what I mean? Protesting is supposed to be disruptive. You're supposed to maybe not burn the city to the ground.
What about standing on a highway?
I mean, it delivers a message.
No, I think that should be illegal.
I mean,
you should be put in jail for doing that.
I understand where you're coming from, and I do understand that, but it's how are you gonna demand a change? You know what I mean? If you're doing it placated. You know, like if you can only like protest here and at this time, and like you can't disrupt like protesters are supposed to be disruptive, whether it be blocking a highway or like flooding like a downtown area to stop commerce or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to disrupt the flow. Like that's what makes change, because otherwise they'll just continue ignoring. That's why No Kings didn't do shit. You know what I mean? Like they looked at it and laughed and then released an AI video of him pooping on people. You know what I mean? Like because dude, it's fangless. You know what I mean? You don't get changed without fangs.
Yeah,
you know,
but there's a level to it where you're like, sure, you have fangs, right? And you have to protest in a way that I agree with you that protests can be disruptive, but there's a certain level, and when you go over that level,
right?
Then you should be.
I do agree with that.
And I would say like for example, I think if you're blocking a public roadway, then yeah, you should be put in jail. And if you are blocking a public roadway and you're intimidating drivers that are in their car and they want to drive away and they happen to hit you, then I don't think they should be charged for that. So like there's a level to where it's like, okay, fine, you're protesting, right? I don't think the mere act of protesting in a place that you shouldn't be, you should get a crazy like.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like there is no place to protest.
Of course there is. Public areas.
Right, but this is what I'm saying. Like the way, like it's the way you're phrasing it. It's like you're making it sound like you have to do it a very specific way in this little box, like in this area. You know what I mean? Like that's not how protests work. If anything, like the best way to mobilize without getting to that level would be to like strike. We all need to strike.
Yeah, I would say that's very effective.
You know, that's probably the most nonviolent way we can get change. You know, is like, let's say like the No Kings people, I forget exactly how many people, but like they said like 300,000 people or more like were going. Imagine all of them went on strike or decided not to pay their federal taxes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a lot more effective than going on a public highway. Because
right.
then you're just going to get regular people to hate you.
Right, exactly. You know what I'm saying? And I totally get that, you know? Like, the optics become way worse. But we're low-key, that's how we're bred to. Like you were saying, we're all individualistic. You know what I mean? So, like, people would rather go to the protest instead of organizing, like, go on strike, because God forbid you can't have your Starbucks that day.
Yeah, because most people who protest are... like, I don't want to say narcissistic, but they're doing that to make themselves feel good because they're. Like,
I won't disagree with that. I'm sure a lot of them are like that, but like I would also say majority of them are there with pure intentions. You know,
I don't
mean?
say
Like,
majority because there's like so many people.
But because like I've been
there's
to
a good
like
portion of people.
I've
who are
been
like
to
that.
like Free Gaza protests. You know what I mean? And most of the time, people are like singing and chanting and like being a community. You know what I mean? Like I feel like when things like blow up out of proportion, like what's happening in Minnesota, like not to say it was justified why it happened, but I understand why it happened. A woman got shot. And then the regime came a day later, gaslit us, and gaslit us into thinking she was a terrorist. You know what I mean? So I get the reaction of burning down Minneapolis. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to say it's justified.
Because it's like, but that's my point too, because there's a lot of people who they feel morally justified with their political, grievances, and everyone has political grievances. But there's a certain level of decorum in society where it's like you need to follow that in a way because. Again, like your personal perspective of the situation.
But let me ask you a question. Why should we show decorum if the regime doesn't?
Because you don't do things for others. You do things because they're right. So what a government is always going to be immoral. Like, I don't think there is such thing as a moral government or philosopher king. It's all fake, right? No, I don't even think you could build a perfect government.
No, there's no such thing as a perfect government. But you could have a government who cares a little bit more about its citizens. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know. I think it's impossible. I'm so black-pilled on governments being good. Like
right.
I think they can be.
Again, I'm not going to say
tools.
But that's what it is. It's a useful tool, and we need to like reframe the way we think about it as tools. It's supposed to enact the will of the people. You know what I mean? Not the other way around. You know, but like we've gotten like gaslit into thinking it's the other way around, essentially. And now that's why like the "Don't Tread on Me" people became "Tread on Me." You know, it's because of that. It's the paradigm shift. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because I think anyone talking about left and right dynamics are just like missing the point.
Right.
They're missing everything that's happening.
Every time I try to have like a good faith argument with like a right winger, you know what I mean? Because I wouldn't even consider you further right winger. You know what I mean? Because like you're right wing, but at least you're logical. You know what I mean? Because like some people are just off the deep end, and it's like no matter how much logic you try to spit at them, it's just hitting a wall.
It's because
you know what I mean?
think the difference really, it's not logic. I think it's principle. And the problem is not, it's not the logic. It's like it's being placed inconsistently. When logic isn't consistent, it's not logic, it's propaganda.
True.
Right? And I think that's really what it is. Where if someone is on the right, for example, and they have their protests where they're running around with guns and blah, 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 because it's their Second Amendment right and they can do that in public property and they can be loud and disruptive, they're going to be perfectly fine with that. But if someone on the left does it for a position that they don't agree with, then it's a problem, and vice versa.
Right.
I 100% agree with you there. But I think, like, we got to a point where violence is so normalized.
Agreed.
We get Luigi Mangione, where we have girls sending him their panties in the mail, right? And then we have people like Charlie Kirk, the Charlie Kirk assassination, where a lot of people came out and they were. I'm about to fight you right now, bro. We're about to get an MMA match in here. But the Charlie Kirk assassination, where people go out and they're very boastful about it and they're laughing about it. And jokes are jokes. I mean, I've gave my couple Charlie Kirk jokes. I'm not someone who's gonna be like, oh, you made a joke about this guy. But it's right after it happened, people cheering, people on TikTok cheering. And that's not most people on the left.
I was also going to say things like that are also echo chambers designed to make us more upset.
But I think it's
left and right, and that's for my own, because I fall into that too, where I'll see some wild fucking thing on Twitter, and I gotta remember, it's literally designed to make me mad.
And it's bots trying to
right,
make me mad,
exactly. You know what I mean? The dead internet theory is a real thing that's probably already happened, if not in the process.
Yeah, I don't even want to call it dead internet theory.
Right,
it's just dead internet.
It's just the internet.
True. Yeah, just the internet.
Yeah, but yeah, man. I don't know. We gotta I get the whole decorum thing. I don't really buy into it too much. Not to say I'm not gonna glorify.
For example, let's think about the situation with the church. You think it's okay, it's acceptable to go to a private church, go there, disrupt it, refuse to leave, trespass on property?
It's a good question, because I'm of the mindset that no place is off limits when you're protesting. You know what I mean? Especially if your pastor is super closely affiliated with ICE. You know what I mean? That's supposed to be a community leader.
Yeah, but religion has nothing to do with what's going on. And even people in the church went, for example, with Don Lemon. If you watch the stream, it's probably going to be used in a freaking court case against him now. But if you watch the stream, there was people who came up to him and were like, "Look, we have people of all different opinions at this church, right? And we're here to worship Jesus,
right?
That's
I get that, and maybe the optics are definitely real bad, whether they're justified or not. You know what I mean? That's
my whole point, because the justification is based off of the perspective of the protester.
Right.
Every protester ever believes they're justified. It doesn't matter if it's someone from, let's give an example, a Palestinian pro-Palestine protester or a pro-Israel protester, right? During the college campuses, there were instances where there were pro-Israel people agitating pro-Palestine people, and there were instances where pro-Palestine people were agitating pro-Israel people.
For sure.
You can get back there and say, look, both of you are bad, right? Stop that. Let's have some decorum. For example, I don't think the encampment protests were inherently bad. People going in, sitting on the campus with tents, staying there the whole time.
It's literally
that's
First
not
Amendment.
necessarily bad. I think, honestly, that's a good thing. And then the administration is passing laws to specifically stop encampment-like protests, to specifically attack pro-Palestine protests, because they don't really care about Palestine. They care about Israel.
Right.
I mean, that's just a fact. But when you're intimidating Jewish students who are trying to go to their class, and someone walks in with a yarmulke on, and then you're just harassing them because they have a yarmulke,
it's not necessarily like that either, though. You know what I mean?
But there were instances like that happened.
Sure,
so I'm just saying,
I'm sure
so we
were.
can look at it case by case basis and be like, okay, the specific person who were doing that, fine, you can get in trouble, whatever the punishment is for that. But what happens is they find the instance of that and they go, okay, now we destroy the entire protest.
Right.
We take everything down. So I feel like it's nuanced, right? I agree with you that protests is extremely important, and protests effectively need to be disruptive in order to be very powerful.
To be effective.
Exactly. To be effective.
Well, how do you think we got body cams on cops? Cities burned down during BLM. You know what I mean? And now cops have a little bit more accountability because they have to record everything in every interaction. You know what I mean? Just imagine how much police brutality went under the rug before that. You know, yeah,
there's a classic case of
people love to say there's no place for violence in America, but if you flip through American history, it's all violence. You know what I mean? That's how we got everything. You know what I mean? Whether it was unions fighting with cops back in the 20s. You know what I mean?
In the progressive area, yeah.
You know, we're a country of violence. We always have been. You know, Now, I'm not gonna say like you should violently protest. I still think we should strike, and that's probably the more like I don't know if progressive is the right word, but like the more like peaceful way to protest. You know what I mean? Without like causing enough havoc, without like destroying infrastructure.
I think you can protest however you want as long as you're not committing a crime. Okay, if you're
Right, but then
trespassing,
they start to justify what different crimes are. Like you were saying, like the encampments protest. Like
But I
now
would
they're
say, like,
passing
that's
that as
that's
crime.
public property.
Right, but now
You know
they're
what I'm
passing it as crime. You can't essentially unionize. Not a union, but like you can't like convene together in one place to protest like that. You know what I mean? Like.
But yeah, that's why we have to be careful about the law and definitions.
But like slavery used to be legal.
I know, but when we're talking
You
about
know,
specifically,
women
like,
couldn't open a bank until
but
1979.
for example, you can't go on private property and protest on private property. And if you refuse to leave, you're trespassing, and the cops can arrest you.
Right.
And maybe they're not arresting you because of your political beliefs; they're arresting you because you're committing a crime.
Right.
In the same way that when you go on a public roadway and you're out there protesting and blocking cars from leaving, blocking emergency vehicles from going places and stuff like that, you're committing a crime.
Nuanced.
Put you in jail.
I agree.
So I think it should be, irregardless of the political opinion, which I think that's what's really going on here, because we're attacking people based off their political opinions, where it's literally like. Whatever. That's a whole. I feel like that's a whole. I was about to say something, but it's a whole conversation for a different day.
Fair enough.
But where we're attacking people specifically for their political opinion, that's wrong. But if it's a blanket rule saying like you can't protest in this specific manner, which is we find disruptive enough to like for like public order, like I would say like the roadway is a perfect example of that. It's like I think that's fair.
Right, but I don't know. That's like a slippery slope to like.
No, I agree. It's probably a slippery slope,
justifying your rights going away.
We have
you know
to
what I mean?
be-
It's the same thing as like the NSA phone taps to now like your phone's recording like it happens little by little, but like they start saying, well, you can't do it this way, but now you can't do it this way, and you can't do it at this time, and you can't be super like pretty soon it's gonna be illegal altogether to protest. You know what I mean? Like, and I still hold firm, and I will die on the hill that that's an inherent American right. Is to protest, you know, like, and there's no rule book onto how you should or can or would protest, you know, like you got to disrupt, you got to call attention, and you got to like demand change.
What if like, now obviously you would obviously disagree with this, but what if it's something where like they're literally running around just attacking people, right? You would go, okay,
well, that wouldn't be a
that's bad.
protest.
No.
That would be a mob attacking people.
But what's the difference between a
Like
protest and a riot?
protest,
What's
like-
the difference between a protest and a riot to you?
Like a riot destroys everything. Protests disrupt, and even if they do destroy things, like for example, some of the BLM protests, like they weren't burning down mom and pop shops. Not saying everywhere, because I'm sure some people did, because there's bad faith actors everywhere. But like,
Nah, they were going block by block, just obliterating everything.
again, how many of those are not psyops or like feds going in? You know what I mean? Even in Minnesota,
nah, dude.
but
I
even
think
in
a big portion of
Minnesota,
those were
but even in
civilians.
Minnesota, the other day, some guy came in, burned the flag, and then ran away, and people were calling him out as being a fed. There to instigate, because like a real protester would have burnt the flag and stayed there and like been proud of it. You know what I mean? Like we also got to be aware that the government will infiltrate a lot of these things and cause more chaos and more havoc to decredit like the movement. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that happens every time like big protests happen. You know, like, yeah, man.
I can
don't
agree
know.
with you there. I think with BLM specifically, I think that was a specific case where there was a lot of violence and it was being justified by people on the left, particularly because they thought that they were justified in their violence. And I remember having conversations there where it's like, where a right to riot, people were talking about you have a right to riot, or constantly being like, oh, mostly peaceful protests where there's literally like flames in the back and like cars being destroyed. I think it's pretty obvious in that specific instance that I don't know if it was all provocateurs. Maybe there were a couple. I know there was like some stories of like random pallets of bricks just being just appearing anywhere. But I honestly, now that I'm talking to you, it's like we should err on the side of more freedom than less freedom.
Right.
So if we're gonna do a decision where it's kind of we don't know, I'm gonna go with we shouldn't limit it. But I think there's very specific cases where like blocking roadways.
Right.
I think going like trespassing on private
Like,
property.
I get the logic. You know what I mean?
Like trespassing on private property and like disrupting like a church service.
Right,
I think
okay,
that should
so
be
but let's say, like-
condemned totally, and I don't think people should be.
Let's say people finally decide to like protest like Amazon. Where could they protest Amazon?
right outside their offices.
But that's private property.
No, it's not in public.
On the street, then you're blocking traffic.
No, you're on the sidewalk.
You're impeding traffic. Like, they'll still make the excuse that you're impeding traffic. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I mean about like the rhetoric. Like, they'll justify whatever they can to silence the people. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like yeah, I call myself a leftist or whatever, but I'm really like for the people, of the people, with the people. You know what I mean? I could care if that makes me a right winger or a left winger. You know what I mean? As long as the people themselves are taken care of, like, I'm good, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's just we never take care of our people. You know, and like every time we try, like the state like knuckles down. You know what I'm saying? Like in Minnesota, you know, like people are like Jake Lang. You know who that is, right? Like, he went to Minnesota and was like throwing Heil Hitler salutes and like saying he was gonna burn the Quran. Yeah, and he said he was gonna burn the Quran.
Oh, Jake Lang. I thought you were
and
talking
then he
about
got pelted. Then he got pelted by like water balloons and like everybody's framing it as like he got attacked and like they're violent protesters. But they're really not. Protesters got him back to his hotel safely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was that one African American gentleman who was
right.
Like,
you know,
let him go.
Right. And like we got to look at that as well as the bad too. You know what I mean? Like, there's bad faith actors everywhere and a lot of provocateurs.
Yeah, no, Jake Lang is definitely a provocateur.
Right. You know, like especially now we're in the age of grifting. Whether left or right, you know what I mean? People are gonna grift and like try to get the biggest reaction they can and do the most like edgy thing they can think of. You know what I mean? Like, we got to be super aware of that. And,
do you condemn what they did with Jake Lang?
What, throwing water balloons?
No, I mean, they were attacking him. He was bleeding. He was getting fully beat up, dude.
Nah, bro.
He was getting pieced up.
Nah, bro. Like, if anything, he probably fell. Like, nobody was stabbing him like they said. Like, none of that happened, bro.
Dude,
like,
nah, he looked pretty beat up, dude. He looked pretty beat up.
Shouldn't be a Nazi, bro. Like, when is it a bad thing to punch Nazis? All of a sudden.
But that's the whole thing. What's a Nazi? Like,
he literally went and was going like this and like about to burn a Quran, bro. Like, when is it a bad thing to punch fascists in this country?
No, but that's the whole thing. That's where I disagree with you. Where it's like you shouldn't be assaulting people for their political beliefs, even if they're a fascist. Even if they're a fascist or a Nazi, you shouldn't be attacking people for their political beliefs.
I think we should punch more fascists.
Nah, I mean, that's where I disagree with you, because that's another slippery slope.
Fascism.
That's another slippery slope,
right?
And I'll tell you why. Because the definition of fascism, like if you pay attention to like how that word has been used,
well, it alters throughout every like usage of it. You know what I mean?
The usage of it means I disagree with you politically, I'm gonna call you a fascist. Especially with these protesters who typically are pretty dumb. I mean, be honest, if you go to these protests and you ask people basic questions, they don't know anything. Because they're there, they're probably getting paid by some NGO to be there.
Also, don't believe that's true.
Bro.
No way, dude.
Dude, a lot of protesters are getting paid. I'm not saying all of them. A lot of it's not saying that all of it's
maybe the manufactured ones, sure, I'll give you that.
But there are protests.
Majority of people are not getting paid to go to these protests. Like,
I don't think a majority.
I think that's like a right wing like boogeyman thing that they like to bring up.
But some people
like,
do get paid.
I'm sure. Same way like right wing protesters get paid. You know what I mean? I'm sure Jake Lang got paid to go over there and agitate things. You know what I'm saying? Like, it goes both ways.
Yeah, well, I think he gets paid because of, like, he gets clicks on YouTube.
Well, that too.
He's
getting
grifting.
Paid. He's getting paid. We're in the age of grifters. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I don't know.
But back to your, like, that word is used in the same way communist is used from right wingers. It's like it's an attack word. It's a missile word.
Right, and people don't know what they mean. Right.
Exactly. So if you go to these protests, you ask people, what is a fascist? Give me the actual definition of a fascist, or give me the definition of a Nazi. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it because their definition would be based off of, oh, I don't like Donald Trump, therefore anyone who supports Donald Trump is a Nazi fascist.
I do agree with that.
And that's why you got to a point where, like, I think the whole right wing, because there was a buildup, 2016 right wing buildup, where it's like you would get canceled for like having a very mediocre take on the internet, and then it went to a point where it's like, okay, now we're actually just straight up racist because it was a huge pendulum swing.
Right.
We got to that pendulum swing by radical leftists punching Nazis, and maybe they.
You don't think we got to there by radical like right people like falling into the rabbit hole? You know what I mean? Like, and the whole QAnon and like.
Well, I think that's
and like aggravating like people to the masses.
I think that was a response to, because I think
that's like the chicken and the egg.
No, because I think the left wing.
Because I wouldn't say the left started it.
No, I don't think they started it, but I'm talking about, if we're talking about like recent politics, right? Like 2016, I think that's when the portal opened up and we're in a different alternate timeline.
Can I be honest? I think it all started 2008.
2012, because that's in the Mayan calendar.
Maybe, but I was saying 2008 because like I feel like when Obama won, a lot of these right wing ultra conservative people like something broke in their mind, dude, and they became more radicalized afterward. And like that's where the whole like white genocide thing started and like the attack on white people and culture and I feel like seeing a black man win, I don't know, man. I feel like it irreversibly
No, I think after
snapped
well,
something.
obviously I wasn't like conscious. I was 4 years old when he won. But I think looking backwards, I think a lot of people were
right,
hopeful.
but I lived through it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were hopeful of
sure.
Obama.
Right,
and there was
most people were.
There's a lot of people who were like, finally, let's
Right,
go. America's
but like the
back.
ultra nationalistic white evangelicals were not.
But
and
I don't think like the right wing shift 2016 is necessarily due to Obama.
No, well, it is because of Obama. Because Obama was that same typical Democrat of like, oh, we're perfect and like we're decorum and this and that, but I'm gonna go bomb Lebanon 57 million times throughout my administration. You know what I mean? Like Obama was
the neocons are
like
probably
I don't know who needs to hear this, but like Donald Trump's a fascist. Biden was also a fascist. Obama was also a fascist. Bush was also a fascist. Like, it's not a new thing.
But when,
you know what I mean?
when you say that, right? Like, I don't think that's true, right?
But it's 100%
But when you
true.
say that, it's like, doesn't it just delete the use of the word fascist?
No, because I get where you're coming from. Because again, most people don't know what it means. I do know what it means. You know what I mean? You're an ultra right, nationalistic, authoritarian regime. You know what I mean? Or like policies or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's been our MO for decades. Decades. We've been fascist. We've been nationalistic. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something new that just happened. It's just like these libs, it's their word of the month or their word of the year. You know what I mean? Now they throw it everywhere without knowing what it means. But it's like, dude, look in the mirror. You know what I mean? Your people are also fascists. You know, it's not just Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and like his regime. It's all of them, dude. They're all are. You know, this is why, like you were saying before about like left versus right. It's never been left versus right. It's always up versus down. You know, like we're all down, unfortunately. You know, like, but yeah, I would say.
I mean, I agree with you there.
I would say like Trump's a fascist. Greg Bovino dresses like a fascist.
Who?
That's the ice czar or like the.
Oh, him. Yeah. He looks
super
like,
short.
He looks like
dresses
Eggman.
like SS from Temu.
He looks like Dr. Eggman from Sonic.
Yeah, kinda. I could see that.
If
you
he
know,
had,
like
if he had a nicer mustache.
Like, I don't know, man. If we don't, to go back to like the whole protest, like, we got it, bro. It's in our blood. It's in our heritage as Americans to protest.
Look, I'm pro protesting. I just think that there's certain levels to where you're doing more harm than good, and you're just justifying the administration to just be even more harsh.
I get that. That's a fair argument. That's a fair argument.
And when we're talking about this specifically with ICE has a mandate from the president. Donald Trump won the election. He has a mandate to deport illegal immigrants. I honestly think that even if Donald Trump wasn't acting in this, I don't think the protests would be as big, but we would still have protests doing probably in the same manner.
Protests, but I don't think they would have erupted if an ICE agent didn't shoot a woman in the face at point blank. Like I feel like that's why
they were doing blocking ICE trucks before that too.
Right, but that's not the same like deterioration that it got to now, where like Minneapolis is on fire. You know what I mean? That all happened because the state went out of its way to shoot a citizen and then gaslight us into thinking like we were all going crazy and like we didn't see what we saw. You know what I mean? Like that's why it escalated to the point it is now. Because I think you should be like telling your neighbors when ICE is coming or like impeding them safely. You know what I mean? Like or monitoring. You know what I'm saying? Like
no, that I agree with. That if you want to have your private monitoring where ICE comes in, you alert everyone in the city.
Right.
That's your American right to do that. I don't think we should be stopping people from doing that. My problem is like when you're literally blocking a federal agent from conducting its duty that they're legally allowed to do, you are in the wrong legally.
Right, but okay.
And then when they try to arrest you,
then let me ask you a question. Let's say ICE comes into your block and like starts rounding up all your neighbors. You're just gonna let them? You know what I mean? You're not gonna impede them because they're a federal agent, or you're gonna try to like stick up for your neighbors.
It depends on how they're doing it. If they're doing it in a violent manner, which they have been doing,
right? But we're talking about like.
But if they're just pulling up and knocking on the door and saying we're looking for this person, we have a warrant, we're arresting. I'm not intervening.
Right, but how many times do they actually have warrants compared to like just pulling people out of their cars or out of court hearings or out of, you know what I mean, with no judicial warrant whatsoever? You know, like I feel like that's happening more than them doing it the right way is. You know, like. Yeah, and that's why people are pissed, and that's why people
I agree with you 100%.
Are getting like the flames are getting stoked.
And I would put more blame on ICE than I would on the civilians.
Right.
And I agree with you there. But I just think that there's a lot of people who deny it's a double-edged sword here. Like,
for sure,
the ICE agents are more agitated because the people are agitated.
Right.
You
But
know,
the people are agitated because the ICE are agitating.
Yes, but I always say that's like the
it's a vicious
administration, because the
circle.
administration's pushing it.
Right.
And then there's
But,
the
like,
ICE
but
agents that are.
Did the administration even get like congressional approval for all these deportations?
They don't need the congressional approval for the deportations.
Okay, fair enough. All right. I thought it would have to get passed by like Senate or Congress to like on something this mass scale where you're like mobilizing like National Guard and shit too. You know what I mean? Like,
well, National Guard, maybe I don't know the laws on that. He might be able to move them, and then he has to get like justification later. But I think with the specific like arrests and like warrants that they're coming in and stopping people and asking for papers, please.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that like, and also too, if you're an American citizen, ICE is asking you for a documentation, I'm not giving it to them. If they stop me, I'm not giving them anything.
Me neither. Let me see that warrant, dude. You know what I mean? You don't got a warrant? I don't got nothing for you. Ciao. You know, like, and that's your American right to tell an ICE officer to like have a nice day and shut the door. Yeah. You know, to be nice about it. You know, like,
yeah, putting it nicely, you'll say it just like
that. Just have a nice day. Ciao. That's it. Because you're right. You don't even have to open the door unless they have a warrant in hand. Don't fall for the whole like, oh, like come with me to my van. Like I'll show you the warrant. Nah, dude. Nah, man. They better have that in hand when they knock on your door. And like that's your right, whether you're an American or not. Like you still have that right here. They can't just come to your door, bust it down. You know what I mean? Like we can't allow that to happen. In my opinion, you know. Like, and just to finish off, random question: do you think Luigi Mangione was justified in that killing or not?
No, he's not. Because at the end of the day, it's the system we're in, right? So obviously the guy is immoral. How do you change the system? Well, you don't just shoot someone in the head because it's like a hydra.
Real quick, though.
But listen, it's like a hydra where another person's just going to take his place. You have to actually.
That's fair.
You have to actually have structural change. You can protest for structural change, and maybe you can have an argument where effectively what he did brought more eyes to the situation and more conversations to the situation, which is just true. But the question is, it's like I feel like morality is not this pick or choose thing. It's like it's stagnant and it's placed. And if you change your morality based off the situation, it's not morality, it's preference.
Right.
Or it's what makes you feel good. So a lot of people come in and they go, oh, but Luigi Mangione, he killed this guy, and this guy was part of this United Healthcare, and United Healthcare had the highest refusal rate. They had an AI scandal where they were basically refusing like 98% of people who were out applying. And obviously they're evil and degenerate. And I think there are similar industries, maybe not as objectively terrible because they're killing people, like OnlyFans or gambling and stuff like that. But the answer is not to kill the heads of those boards or to kill people who do it, or like OnlyFans models or whatever, or to attack them on the streets because you feel justified in a way. It's like we have a civil society. We're not in, like we are in America. So you have to use your First Amendment to discuss, debate, and change the society and not have to kill someone, bloody murder on the street.
I get that.
Now, obviously alleged because they didn't charge him. So once they charge him, then
they didn't even read him his Miranda rights.
Yeah, and that's a whole other thing too. So it's like, if he gets off, I think they should make a example out of him. They should punish him harshly, and they should make an example out of him. Put him in jail for a long time.
That's what they want, dude. That's what the elite wants.
Of course, but
look how quick they mobilized to like demonize Luigi after the fact. You know what I mean? Because they saw that like that's not the response they were expecting, because they thought like they were gonna break the news and everybody was gonna be like, oh my god, and clutch their pearls. But instead everybody was like, no, that was based. You know what I mean? Majority of people were like, no, that was based. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and to sit here and be like, oh, I'm so sorry for this guy. I mean, he had a wife and kids. I mean, his kids are gonna grow up with no family.
So were all the people he denied.
But ultimately, yeah, it is jester to be like, oh, this guy's so sad, blah blah blah
right,
blah.
You know,
but the question is like, we have a society, and you need to punish behavior like that.
And
I guarantee you, if Luigi Mangione didn't happen, Charlie Kirk would still probably be alive.
Nah, no way.
I think so, because I think that it's a
What does Luigi Mangione have to do with Israel?
Well, he didn't kill anyone. Like, I don't think Charlie Kirk was killed for anything with Israel.
Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, he wasn't killed because of Israel. He was killed because he was a fascist, and he was.
I mean, I think that's the story they sold us, but
I mean, that's what the guy wrote on the bullet casing.
Again, like again, with these whole like bullet casing things, like every shooter now has like written messages on bullet casings. You know what I mean? Like it's all propaganda. You know what I mean? But we could talk about that next time. Izzy, you want to send us off?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking around. If you watched this long, I'm like pretty surprised. Drop a like. Drop a comment. I never see comments. Like, what's going on, guys? And we need to hear back from you guys.
We want to debate.
We want to debate. Yes, exactly. Now we finally
call us liberals.
Yeah, call me a libtard. I would love that. It just fuels me. Even though I'll cry if I see that, I'll be like, no. My 13-year-old self would like hate me. Would be like, you're such a liberal cuck. But it's okay, guys. Appreciate everyone for watching. We have a lot of other shows here, so go into the channel, look at the other videos we have, and look at our previous videos too, because we have a lot of content out, and we're, I would say we're pretty smart. I think we have a pretty good operation going here. So thank you so much for watching. Peace.
World War III has never been closer than it is right now.
The Pentagon today announced the U.S. is sending military assets closer to Israel, including one of the Navy's most...
the way you do. You're making all my dreams come
President Xi Jinping has said that China is an awful threat and the scope of its threat, and he wants people in China to...